Nadine Dorries has officially stepped down as an MP. No, really, I'm not kidding. She has finally handed the PM her resignation letter. That move comes a full 81 days after she announced her intention to stand down with, quote, immediate effect back in June. That's almost twice as long as the Trust premiership. All of this followed the revelation that she wouldn't be receiving a peerage from Boris Johnson, which is something he promised her, something she's blamed Rishi Sunak for ever since. So why has it taken Dorries so long? Here's what she told the Daily Mail.
Well, there are a number of things I wanted to do. One, as you know, was to obtain a kind of paper trail around the conversations that took place over my exit from Parliament. And the reason why is because I informed the Cabinet Secretary, Simon Case, of my intention to exit Parliament back in July 2022. So it was always my intention to leave initially, but I became under sustained pressure from members of the Cabinet, backbenchers, senior members of my own local party and association. In fact, it became quite intense, the pressure not to go and to stay until the general election and not to put the party through another damaging by-election. But as you know, I started writing a book into what happened to Boris Johnson and to Liz Truss, having been first-hand and witnessed what happened to them both. I started kind of doing my own investigation, and it became quite apparent to me then that I couldn't remain as either a backbencher, a minister or an MP, knowing what I knew and being the author of a book which was about to expose a democratic corruption at the heart of the Conservative Party. So
Dorries' Scooby-Dooing for her book kept her drawing her parliamentary paycheck without actually doing her parliamentary work. Later, she went into a little more detail about what's in that forthcoming book.
We've had 4 prime ministers who've all been removed from office without any of them having lost a general election, which is actually quite bizarre and undemocratic. There are a small group of very powerful men, both at the heart of the Conservative Party and at the heart of Downing Street, who very much control events. And I don't think many people are actually aware of that. And that's one of the things that I've uncovered in the book. But what it also represents is an absolute democratic corruption at the heart, or a corruption of democracy, rather, at the heart of the Conservative Party. Rishi Sunak became Prime Minister without a single member's vote or a vote from the public. No one has voted for him to be in that job. Nobody.
And Dorries penned her formal resignation letter over the weekend and published it in the Mail on Sunday. At 1,800 words long, it must be one of the longest, not to mention most drama-filled in parliamentary history. And she was pretty scathing about Rishi Sunak's track record there, saying this. Since you took office a year ago, the country is run by a zombie parliament where nothing meaningful has happened. What exactly has been done or have you achieved? Sounds like me and Michael Walker. You hold the office of Prime Minister unelected without a single vote, not even from your own MPs. You have no mandate from the people and the government is adrift. You have squandered the goodwill of the nation. For what? I think that's brilliant writing. But while Sunak might be running a zombie government in a zombie parliament, according to Dorries, he's been running an effective campaign against her.
It's all kind of come to a head this week because I'm actually shocked that the Prime Minister himself has kind of opened the door on free hits at me from anybody who wants to make them throughout the summer. And it's kind of whipped up a public frenzy. And it's resulted in the police having to visit my home and contact me, as I say, a number of times. And I'm not one of those MPs who you will ever see going on camera complaining about death threats or, online abuse or threats. As far as I'm concerned, that's part and parcel of the job. And if you don't like it, get out of the kitchen, because if you want to be an MP, that's what you're going to suffer and experience. You shouldn't, but you are. However, the latest threats this week have made me realise that, that's why I have to announce that I'm going today.
I laughed at that, saying, the frenzy. And I thought, what frenzy? We don't talk about Nadine Dorries that much at the moment. But then I was reminded of, we've put out several videos here at Novara Media. They always do phenomenally well. Hundreds of thousands of views. So maybe Nadine Dorries is watching Novara Live and all these videos we put out. And she's thinking, these people are frenzied. They're coming after me. Dorries' departure means that a by-election will likely be triggered when Parliament reconvenes next week. That means voters in mid-Bedfordshire could be going to the polls as soon as late September, bang in the middle of Tory conference season. Was that canny timing on Dorries' part? Well, not according to her.
You could end up with a by-election right in the middle of conference season. How do you think colleagues will feel about that at peak relaunch time?
Any thoughts they have about that, they need to direct into number 10, because number 10 have made this happen. So it isn't me. Number 10 have made this happen. I also was aware that this might not be a good thing to happen on the first anniversary of Rishi Sunak becoming Prime Minister in October. And all of those things, were in the back of my mind. By-elections, not good for the party, 20 points behind. It will be the worst by-election defeat in living history if it takes place. Constant messages from my peers saying, please don't do this. You will damage MPs in marginal seats. Please don't do it. The first anniversary of Rishi coming to power, conference, all of these things were at play. And yet the entire summer, Rishi Sunak has been asking for me to go. So if any of my colleagues are angry, they really need to look to number 10 and ask them, what the hell are you doing? Why have you done this?
Nadine Dorries, whatever you say about her, she's box office. Pure drama. Rivka, with that said, are you going to be buying the book?
Oh, totally. I mean, there's going to be so much material in it. At least you hope so. I mean, you've got to admire the grift with Nadine Dorries. You just have got to admire it. Book authors don't earn that much these days. I mean, obviously, as culture secretary for a couple of years, Nadine Dorries herself could have done something about this, but she didn't. So be that as it may, some authors have got to eat. So I guess she's got her MP's salary to fall back on. And, she's a smart gal. I honestly, she's got the memo about quiet quitting, but just not the quiet part. She's just quitting in the most guns, all guns blazing. Absolutely. She's self-immolating in the most slow motion, spectacular way imaginable. And I'm so here for it. The 1,800 word resignation letter that's redolent of that. You have no authority here, Jackie Weaver. You have no mandate, Rishi Sunak. It's kind of the late stage of Toryism in Great Britain. They're done for. They're sort of the living dead. And so they're just fighting amongst themselves and allowing us all to watch for free. And in some ways, that is Nadine Dorries' greatest service as culture secretary, is to create a real life political drama in which she is the protagonist.